Well, I am running for Chief Justice of the Third Court of Appeals, and that court is your highest appellate court at the intermediate level that governs the cases that are tried in Bell County, as well as 23 other counties in Central and West Texas. Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals is a very important position because that appellate court, in essence, is grading the papers of our trial judges. When you go to court and you have trial in county or district court in Bell County, and if you don't like what's happened, you generally have a chance to appeal that, and this is the court that would hear your appeal. This court's also very important because not only does it hear the cases tried in the 24 counties, their appeals, because it includes Travis County and the state government. Almost all the state government cases involving regulatory agencies are heard in terms of their appeals in this court. So this court doesn't just impact our counties of the 24 that we have specific appellate jurisdiction over, it impacts the entire state of Texas. I'll give you some examples. If you have a big PUC rate increase case, it could be $1 billion involving the ratepayers of Houston. If that case is challenged through the PUC process, it would come to this Court of Appeals, even though Houston technically is not part of the 24 counties. What's critical on a court is to have independent judges. And you need balance on a court. Right now, we have 6 judges on this court, and we have what I would consider 5 extremely conservative judges and 1 moderate judge. That moderate judge is our Chief Justice, Woody Jones, and he's retiring at the end of his term. So that is the position I'm running for. It is technically an open seat, which means there is no incumbent, and it will determine whether or not we maintain one person on that court who will bring balance to the court. And it's very important to have balance. If you have 6 people who are all on the far right, you cannot get to the center. You have to have someone driving to the center. And when I was on the Court of Appeals from 2007 to 2012, I was very effective about bringing moderation to the court and getting us to that middle ground, a more moderate, pragmatic view, which is generally a view that most people would want the courts to be at. They don't want extremes. They don't want us on the far left. They don't want us on the far right. They don't want judicial activism. They don't want left judicial activism. They don't want right-wing judicial activism. They want our courts to be independent, fair, call balls and strikes, have a strike zone that's the same for either team. But the one thing unique about appellate judges that's a little different from the umpire is that the appellate judges have the power to change the rules. And so that's what I call judicial activism. When you have judges who are constantly changing the rules, and it's very hard to do business when you make extreme changes right and left. And so I bring a very moderate, pragmatic view, and I think it's very important to know the lawyers that practice in the 24 counties were allowed to vote anonymously. The state bar does a preference poll for judicial candidates. And my opponent and myself, I was the preference of the lawyers. I won that poll. That's very significant. 2 other independent bar associations that are bipartisan endorsed in this race, the only 2 that I know of, they both endorsed me over my opponent, the Austin Black Lawyers Association as well as the Hispanic Bar Association of Austin. They are bipartisan, and they endorse both Democrats and Republicans. And they all endorsed me. And I think their view, from what you can tell from the lawyers, is that they know my track record, having spent 6 years on this court. I decided 2,000 cases. I wrote more than 700 opinions. And I was one of the hardest working judges. They know that with me, I'm a straight shooter. I bring independence. I'm not beholden to any politician. There's a lot of people who get appointed to judgeships because they know the governor. I'm not one of those. I won the election on the merits, and I'm not beholden to any politicians. My duty is to be fair and independent to the citizens of Texas and provide them with a judiciary that you'd want to go in front of. And I have that track record, having done that for 6 years. And so I think it's very important in this year, this election, to make sure that we maintain one of those voices of independence, of fairness, of moderation.